For society to function, the ability to get around is vital. The importance of mobility for employment, education, healthcare, and the good old desire to see new places shouldn't be underestimated. Mass public transport also has clear environmental benefits and increases social connections. But public transport is unassuming and unpretentious. It often goes under the radar, which maybe is why buses have suited the Dysons family for 4 generations. These days, the Dysons own a transport business that employs 1,200 people to maintain, schedule, drive and manage 650 buses at 11 depots across Victoria. Every year, the company's buses cover 34.2 million kilometres. That's the equivalent of 855 times around Earth, or 89 times to the Moon. That's a long way from Pop Dyson's 9.8 kilometres from Regent Station to Janefield Hospital.
Oh my God, I should know this.
Oh.
I would say in his...
Guessing 16.
20s?
18.
I think maybe 18?
18.
Laurie Pop Dyson emigrated from England in 1923. He was just 18 years old and moved to rural Bundoora.
His father was very savage on him coming out here because they had a good business over there. You know, grandfather had 3 foundries, small foundries, which were a big thing in those days over there.
And I don't think Dad wanted to work in the foundry because it wasn't the sort of work that appealed to him.
Laurie found work on the McLean Dairy carting milk by horse. In 1926, Laurie married Nina, the daughter of his employer. In that same year, Joan was born, becoming the first child of 6.
Married into this family of 12 people, 9 girls, and married Nina, our mum, in 1926. Roughly that time, we don't know, because the first child came along a bit early. And nobody wanted to remember the date of the wedding. So we were a little bit in the dark there. Anyhow, that's not a problem. But I remember when they had their 50th anniversary, it was a bit of a raffle as to what day it was they were going to have it.
Somehow, Laurie and Nina, known as Nina because she was the 9th child, managed to buy 5 acres of uncleared land at the corner of Plenty Road and now Grimshaw Street. By the time of the Great Depression, the family was doing it tough financially. Laurie searched for odd jobs and even chased work in New South Wales mending fences. In 1940, Laurie enlisted into the war effort, serving in the Transport Division. Back from war, Laurie needed a job and found it working as a bus driver for Ned Gaston, running up and down Plenty Road and on school routes. In 1946, the opportunity came up to become part owner of Kilford Garage and Smash Repair with Gaston.
He learned to become a motor mechanic, which stood him in good stead after the war, because his first business he had was down at Smith Street, Collingwood. He used to look after the service station side. They had 2 partners, George Dodson and Jimmy Rule. Had a lot of trouble getting 8 hours work out of them, if you know what I mean.
Somehow, Laurie rubbed 2 coins together and joined the ownership team. Ned Gaston also owned the Balmoral Garage, as well as the bus route that he'd employed Laurie on. After he died, Laurie was offered the chance to buy both. By now it was 1952. Laurie was 48 and must have seen this as the last chance to build some sort of legacy. He sold his share in Kilford, got some money from his dad in England to help rustle up the £18,000 he needed to put his name to the operation, This time, he was moving forward without the complication of partners.
Dad tells the story about a chap that wanted to go into partnership with Pop when the business first started, and he had difficulty raising capital to keep the business going. And Dad said, I can remember it quite vividly. He was sitting at the table when the discussion was happening, and Nan got up and said, well, if you go into partnership with this chap, I'm leaving. So that was the end of that discussion. Nan was a really strong lady. She was very supportive. She had 6 kids as well. Her role within creating Dysons, even though it's not on any of the history books or anything like that, but it was very, very, I think, very, very supportive. So Pop came back from war. He had the opportunity to purchase the business, and one of the main reasons was so that he could keep his children employed. And that's sort of been a bit of a trend right along.
I know Neil would know this.
The Larundel route, and the number escapes me.
I'd be guessing 42.
46.
46. A?
46A? I know this because I asked my dad the other day. It's 46A.
Dysons Bus Company's first run was 9.8 kilometres from Regent Station, up Plenty Road to Janeville Hospital on Route 46A. The first depot for Laurie's 4 clapped-out buses was behind a driver's house in East Preston.
He used to drive a shift, run it, and do the mechanical work because there was only 4 buses. And Dad wasn't very good mechanic because he only learnt late in life.
Laurie got by collecting coins for the trip. He had a couple of drivers that he knew from his army days, and they all enjoyed a smoke and a chat. Public transport was vital back then. Cars were for the wealthy, and infrastructure was underfunded in the north. Buses were essential. In 1956, Col Dyson joined his dad in the business, becoming one of 8 staff.
I resisted the notion of going to work for him because I had a good job in Preston Motors. I'd been with them for 10 years, by 56, and I was apprenticed to them for 4 years. So I was pretty well entrenched. But it was a big decision at the time because I had, by 1956, 2 kids. And you don't want to upset the cattle cart because it was an unknown territory. I reckon the average person would say, well, would you even think twice about not working for your dad? But, you know, we were getting money out of the fare box and there wasn't much of it about. He couldn't afford to pay me any more money than anyone else. So you got the minimum amount of money for your wages. And that remained like that for a long time. It was right until we got to probably 1990, might have been a bit later, that we were able to lash out a bit. So I made the right choice, as it turned out. But I would have been a dumb bum if I didn't do that, I reckon.
Soon, Laurie bought the route Melbourne to Nathalia on the Murray River, gaining access to a new garage in Melbourne and 3 more buses.
Well, Dad bought Nathalia because he wanted the depot. The depot he did, because at one time we were in the depot and we got turfed out of it because they were only leasing it.
When the government made contracts for people, we were running from Regent Station to Janeville. Janeville was a government institution and Janeville had all disability kids in it. So they were beholden to cater for them. So we were the bus service in that area. So they subsidised us to go up there in the morning early with the staff, pick the people up that had worked overnight and bring them home. And for night time, you'd go up there and pick a crew up and bring them back. So that was 2 trips you went, but we went more than that up there. We went several trips a day.
By 1962, Cole was managing maintenance activity, brother Bill was overseeing bus operations, and brother-in-law Bill Deacon was running the day-to-day affairs. Sister Maisie Deacon would soon become an important part of the story too.
Well, first of all, Dad's wish was that he wanted to have a company that could employ his family. And he had 6 kids himself, 4 of them boys, so they're all potential employees.
When I went on the road, Dad was able to put more time into looking after the actual business, if you know what I mean. Financial, because he had to count the money, bank it, and look after the government side of things and all that, which was there's not much difference what it is now. There's only a small number of buses, but all that's, you know, what the government's like.
The northern suburbs began to develop in the mid-1960s. Northland opened in 1966 and La Trobe University a year later. Dysons acquired 50% of Northcote bus service to meet the demand, and in 1969 opened its first head office at 753 to 755 Plenty Road, Reservoir.
So a favourite story I like to tell is when I was cleaning buses, and these are the days when smoking was allowed on board. Our head cleaner, he said to me, "You start that end and I'll start at this end." And he always started at the driver and I always started at the back end. And ultimately I'd come out dripping wet with nicotine all over my body, and he'd be still sitting at the front pouring Coca-Cola on the entry aluminium plate. The whole time he was just pouring Coca-Cola. He was doing nothing else. He was just watching me. And this happened for many months, more to the point, probably years, that when he left and the next person came along, I was the one at the front and that person was the one getting all the nicotine over their body. Lesson learned.
Shane and I were driving buses around when we were 12, 13 years of age, which was great, you know, to be able to do that and be trusted with that. And we were pretty proficient at moving vehicles around in a tight area, and depending on where people were and how they were viewing the vehicle moving, sometimes it must have looked like there was no one behind the wheel because obviously we were pretty short. I remember a few people running out of the office or the workshop thinking that there was no one in the bus, and then they'd suddenly see myself in there and, oh, right, okay, you are in there.
My dad was the general manager of the business at the time, and the after hours phone number was in our house. We as kids, me together with my 3 siblings, it was sort of forced upon us to understand the timetables, because the after hours queries were more about what time's the first bus from A to B tomorrow morning. It's not a very good answer when you're answering an after hours phone call, say, I don't know.
Mid-70s. How many buses?
I'll say
Mid-70s. Oh, not many. I'd say probably 4.
Maybe 60.
74.
12 to 15.
16.
I'm going to say 28.
I believe we had about 35, 40.
Well, in 73 it had 26.
By the mid-1970s, the company had 26 buses and started charter services. In 1980, the company secured a relationship with Reservoir Bus Company to get access to some east-west routes.
The East-West Bus Company went over 2 different patches. So instead of fighting for each other who was going to get the contract, we decided to put a joint bid in and won that contract as a consortium. All our service used to be north-south, and so was Reservoir Bus Companies all north-south. That was the first time we went east-west. We had Reservoir Depot. Pop decided he said, well, we'll go outgrow Reservoir Depot one day. So we bought a block of land up here in McKimmy's Road, a house on it and a trotting truck at the back. One of my first jobs every month was go and pick up the rent off the trotting driver, have a chat to him as I started getting interested in horses then. So trying to get some tips off him and We then decided to build the depot there, but it was only skeleton depot. But one of the comments that when we first walked into that depot and built that skeleton depot is it will never fill this place. And some 10 years later, it was full.
But not all was rosy. Back in 1977, Nina passed away.
Every now and then when the lawns got long, my job was to go mow the lawns as well as feed the chooks and put the chooks away. Nana was always standing over saying her job was to count the chooks going in the shed and telling me whether I've done a good job as this young child. I've got memories of being very in a happy place.
And Laurie became severely incapacitated. 7 years later, in 1984, he passed away.
He'd walk in the driver's room and he'd just laugh and have a joke with everyone and got on with everyone. They'd have a joke and take the mickey out of him just as much. And he loved it, and often he just got kicked out of the driver's room by the back of the pants. They'd maybe throw him out the door.
He's a bit political on certain things. He'd be yelling and talking to the telly. I remember Nana coming, for Christ's sake, Laurie, can the kids watch Disneyland, you know? And then the heater, as I said, you'd end up in your dressing gown and pyjamas. You go home at Upper State, you'd have your jocks on. That's how hot it was in there. But I remember how bloody hot it was in there. God, it was hot.
Pop was a true gentleman, English gentleman.
But as Pop would expect, the wheels kept on turning. The new head office opened in 1986, and the year after that, the company opened Gippsland services and routes up the coast to New South Wales and Canberra. By 1990, Dysons were running 78 buses, but another sad time engulfed the family when Bill Deacon passed away. Bill's passing initiated a changing of the crew behind the steering wheel. A 4-year period of transition began for 3 young men who would each follow in their father's footsteps. In 1994, the 3 third-gen leaders assumed the roles of joint managing directors.
And we just sort of took over our roles as I was operations, Lance was finance, and Neil was in maintenance. And we just sort of developed those roles and then joined them together into joint managing directors.
We pretty much been running the place, Shane, Lance and myself, been running the place for the last couple of years before that, pretty much, because we're all heads of those areas. They were stepping out and we were then the figureheads, which then put us into the arena of looking, you know, over the whole company and having to gel as a trio to run the place rather than just our own areas.
Uncle Colt and Uncle Bill to turn to us in June 30, 94 and say we're going into retirement and will you boys be okay? And yes, we were.
Even though they didn't have to actively work at it, the spirit of Dysons was well and truly being developed.
Memories of 6 kids running around those halls. Then out in the California sunshine.
The biggest acquisition of the times was in 1991, when Reed's name came under Dysons' umbrella. The purchase price was $1 million.
I think the takeover of Reed's was certainly a significant deal. It was a significant step that showed Dysons that they were capable of buying a business and then redeveloping it into a Dyson style, and that was the start of many takeovers of some consequence. There've been takeovers beforehand, but only very small ones.
In the late 1990s, government intervention changed the business model again. Public tenders for bus routes were being proposed and no longer done on a cost-plus basis. Then in 1997, Dysons partnered with its old foe, Reservoir Bus Company, to form Melbourne Buslink. After less than a decade in charge, the third-gen joint managing directors were now overseeing 34 routes in sole ownership and partnership, plus some regional services in Echuca, East Gippsland, Wodonga, as well as limited V-Line services. Dysons had gathered some speed, but it was just getting going.
And heaps up the country. I think they're
Bell Street Bus Company.
2003 was Bell Street Cobb & Co. 2006 was Kyneton Bus Lines. On the 1st of July of 2008 we took over Northern Bus Lines. On the 2nd of July we took over Wodonga Bus Lines.
Reservoir.
Australia Pacific Touring. Obviously Reservoir Bus Company, Northern Bus Lines, Mylon Bus Lines.
The company made some significant acquisitions in the 2000s, starting with Bell Street Bus Company and Cobb & Co., then the less successful Australian Pacific Touring.
Bell Street was incredibly important. Number one, it was an iconic bus route in Melbourne, known as a very profitable route. It fitted the Dysons expansion at the time. We'd already bought Reeds. But it also had Cobb & Co with it, which was significant, if not all that profitable operation, but again, an iconic name in the Australian transport landscape, Cobb & Co. So between the two of them, it made a fairly substantial business and a fairly substantial risk to go out and borrow the money to buy it.
When we bought Bell Street / Cobb & Co, we then took over the Darwin and Alice depots. That really added to the pressure of not only what we bought in Melbourne with Bell Street and the Cobb & Co charter operation here in Melbourne, but we had Alice and Darwin.
When I turned 18, I moved into a cadetship, which is our first time of basically an internal apprenticeship. So at that time, we just took over Cobb & Co and Bell Street bus companies, and an opportunity was given to me to move up to Alice Springs and Darwin. So I moved up there for about 18 months and really enjoyed my time up there and learned a lot of things. As soon as I got to Alice Springs, the manager actually resigned. So I was there for about a week with the manager, then I had to look after the place until an interim manager came in. So I learned a lot of things very quickly, being 18, trying to tell 45, 50-year-old blokes how to do their job, and I wasn't 100% sure of myself at that stage. So
a takeover of the APT operation, it didn't work well at all. And there are a number of reasons for that. I think the business was slightly foreign to Dysons' normal business. It was long distance tourist coaching and it was remote. And we were basically a contractor to another large organisation. So we didn't have the sorts of controls or the ability to introduce the controls that we really needed to do to make it successful. There are a lot of good lessons for everyone involved in APT, but it was probably one that if you're going to be involved in taking over a business, make sure you've got the ability to manage it in terms of the geographical importance that you can touch to it with people, and you're going to have the control because it's not much good having a subcontractor role in somewhere where you haven't got control and you actually can't change the basic business model.
Dysons continued to grow in metro areas as well as in the regions. Then in 2012, it acquired its old foe, Reservoir Bus Company.
They were the enemy for so many years. The fights between Pop Dyson and Pat Cooper were legendary. Ironically, Bill Deacon and Johnny Cooper were good mates the next generation down. But to actually do what Pop Dyson would have done 40 years beforehand, and that's to take over Reservoir Bus Company, was probably the most satisfying aspect of my whole career with Dysons.
We were very similar sort of company, had same background, history, same size in the same suburb, and we were neck to neck for so long. And then when we actually purchased them, we bought them out. It wasn't the biggest, but it was probably one of the sweetest.
Why that is significant as a milestone is because that company revenue alone represents a quarter of the annual turnover of Dysons at that time. So after that, it sort of marked a new era of acquisitions.
like 2008.
I'm 17 years old now, 17 to 20 years old. So I'd say 2004, 2006, 2004.
June 2006.
That would have been 2006.
2006.
2006?
By the early 2000s, the company had outgrown its facilities, so invested into the future by buying more land in Bundoora, planning to build a purpose-built head office and depot.
I was given the job of that project, and I think if I held one meeting with the staff of Dysons, I reckon I held 150 meetings of different people trying to get all their input and get them to think outside the square and into the future of what they might like and how we're going to operate in such a place, because you get into a bit of a mindset of, you know, this is how we do it and we'll just keep doing it at the new place, but there had to be a lot of new methods employed.
Well, to drive down McKimmy's Road and approach the depot and see the signage and the beautiful facade of the buildings and just see the car park full and turn into there, and I think, wow, this is fantastic. This is all, you know, the family's work.
In 2010, Dysons was inducted into the Family Business Australia's Hall of Fame, and by 2015 was running 380 buses. Its place as an employer of choice was confirmed.
I think family is important to the business because at Dysons, our culture is based on our family's culture. So I don't think it would be the business it is now without the family in it. And I think that having the family still work in it is what keeps that culture going, because it's that family culture. You don't get that anywhere but from the family.
What we learnt from the second gen was just bringing your true self to work, and the second gen did it beautifully. So they're just real, genuine, decent people. So I can remember a story when my dad, but you know, quite a few years ago, was still involved in the board meetings, and he's gone into the boardroom with his sister, who was the director at the time. And his sister is picking off the leaves and the branches from his jumper. And she's like, "Bill, where have you been?" And he's like, "I've been pruning." So this is how he's turned up to a board meeting. And that's what they were like. They just brought their true selves.
It's probably not one particular thing. It's the vibe that goes with being involved with Dysons. You know, it's a lovely vibe. It's an inner feeling that this business has been an important business to so many people, and so many people have got a lot out of it, and indeed that business has put a lot in to a lot of communities that is quite valuable.
My mum never drove, and I was one of 6 kids, and she used to put me on the bus in Kingsbury, and the driver would take me off the bus and take me across to the kinder. So I was kinder age, and that's because Mum she would have had another 3 after me that she had at home. So that was just the most convenient way of being able to do it. You would never do that these days.
There's a bloke called Jack Lawrence in the counting room with Pop, and we used to love going in there because in the top drawer he always had lifesavers. And you go in there and he'd put one in his hand and shut your hand, and then you open up, there'll be a lifesaver in there. You know, he's a great bloke, Jack, and him and Pop were always counting the money in the money room.
Favourite memories would be Christmas time and Easter time mainly.
I did make up goodie bags for the kids, little treats and stuff for them for Christmas. Same for Easter, and every now and then, it's usually about once a month, I will come in with a big box of mixed chocolates and lollies and stuff and hand them all out as they get in the bus in the morning, and they just look forward to once a month, but they never know what day it's going to be.
What I do remember is there used to be a chap called Noel Skeen, very dear family member who worked for us, and he used to run our social club. And we used to get together at Christmas time. We'd put all the presents in a bus. Santa would roll up in the bus, buy the presents for the employees and their family, and Santa would hand out the presents to the kids.
I used to go when I was 5, younger, maybe older. So that was when I used to go, and then, you know, fast forward, 20 odd years. Now I've got, 2 sons. One son that's old enough, he's 2.5, and another son that's 3 months old. And last year was the first year that I got to take him to Funfield. So it was a good kind of flashback just to see how much the place had changed, and it reminds you of everything around here, and even Dysons, they've kind of grown in unison, exploded with the rides they had, and but it was still the same vibe. We still had Santa Claus come, still had the food there, still had the funny laughs, you still had the convos with the drivers that you don't see every day. So it was still the same vibe of what it was 20 or 30 years ago.
Our family and company social get-togethers created a unity, and it showed our employees, or it highlighted our family, our culture, and our togetherness, and how much we valued families and family life. I always sort of hoped with organising events that, my prime goal with it was to get everybody together, to have fun, and to just enjoy one another's company and time together. And to know that, perhaps that I've created that, that's really lovely to hear.
By 2019, operations in Shepparton and Deniliquin had been added, and so had a 7-year contract with the government for metro services. Soon after, the transition to the next generation of leaders began.
Second generation to third generation was 1994, and we were probably 70 buses strong then, so we weren't that big. Whereas now, we're in 600 buses and 1,000 people. So that next generation, it's a lot of responsibility to take on. That was part of the reason we didn't want to leave the kids, and we'll just walk out and say, oh, good luck. So we went through a process to say, well, what will work best. We have 3 joint managing directors that are family people, and we've always had family in charge at the top. So the decision to bring in a single CEO, non-family, was a big decision, probably one of the biggest we've ever made.
I think the change bus that they're on is an incremental change bus, pardon the pun, but the appointment of a non-family CEO is a major change for a family firm.
Look, the CEO's role at Dysons has now become critical. We're negotiating government contracts at a much higher level and in a more complex environment than we were in the past. And while we're able to bring in outside help to do that in the past, I think it's now got to the stage where that CEO is expected to actually have those skills inherent in the company and present the company at government level in a manner that's going to be really consistent with a large-scale business, which Dysons is. So I think from that point of view, in addition to doing the other work that the CEO is expected to do, that'll be the critical feature that makes the CEO's role so valuable.
I think one of the opportunities that has been created by my appointment is to mentor and guide the members of Generation 4 into understanding what it is to lead in a larger business. I mean, a business of this size with the number of depots that we have and the number of assets that we have requires serious and sophisticated leadership. I am here to help Generation 4 make that adjustment.
I'm quite excited with the new General Group Manager joining the organisation. I think it's the next step in our phase, in our business moving forward. It's going to corporatise us a little bit more, given that we've got a lot more employees, a lot more drivers that we've got to manage on a day-to-day basis. Whereas, you know, in the past we only had 50 to 100 drivers and slowly acquired within and the growth there, but now we're too big for that, so I think this is our next step.
I'm excited by the new Group General Manager, what kind of new ideas, innovation, long-term vision is going to bring to the business.
We've got fourth generation family members in more senior leadership roles now, which is really exciting, and they're also bringing with them those really strong elements of Dyson culture as well.
It's funny now to see some of my cousins like managing people, and I'm like, you used to, like ride around on your bike with me or make fun of me down the shop or all of this stuff, and now here you are like, managing 500 people. Like, it's a bit surreal in a way, yeah.
In terms of the transition from 3 to 4, it's exciting, but also a bit nerve-wracking because they're not going to be here on a day-to-day basis and get you out of jail when you need to.
By 2020, COVID-19 had well and truly hit, testing the business and the strength of its culture.
When COVID hit, everybody thought that we are going to lose a job. Dyson as a family member, they look after as a family to everybody. And so what they done, they just put everybody together, say, listen, we are not letting anybody go. We're going to keep everybody on the job. They were looking after us as a family member, one or the other. Doesn't matter what happened in that COVID period.
I first started bus driving with the company a couple of years ago when COVID started. I was retired and I got asked to come in and do some casual work for the bus company and jumped on board and haven't looked back since.
2 years of COVID, a lot of us had family that were away and we couldn't see because they were in lockdown. We actually said that our team was like our family, and so it was really good to come to work every day, be around our members and team members, and it helped us get through COVID actually.
I think the biggest legacy left by the earlier generations have always emphasised the importance of looking after the people in the business, the assets in the business and the customers. And that's continued through to today.
My main legacy from especially my dad and Shane Dyson that I've probably worked with the most from a third gen point of view is looking after one another, not just us as in administration, but also more importantly our driving group. Listen to them, hear them, understand their issues and see if we can resolve them.
I think the legacy is kind of exciting. Like, you look at the third gen and they're very good at their jobs, but they were kind of thrown in the deep end and they did a really good job. So there's a part of, I think, the fourth generation that's kind of like, throw us in the deep end, let's see what we can do. I think lots of us have worked in the business for many years. A lot of people have only worked here. So I think we kind of back ourselves a bit to say, hand it over, give us a go, and let's see how much further we can take it.
I want to say maybe
a lot.
Oh yeah, I think it's 700 and around 700 mark, 700 to 800.
Oh, 600 I think, not sure.
700?
I want to say 647.
648.
But my answer is there's never enough buses.
After 70 years, Dysons has been around the block, if you'll pardon the pun, many, many times. Its experience and know-how sets it up well for an exciting future.
It's a respected business, and many other smaller bus companies, when they're ready to retire their business or divest their business, see Dysons as a natural choice for their people to join the Dyson family.
I think the future is very promising for us. There's a lot of work to do, making sure that we stay with the government's eyes on. We've got different governments coming in at different times, but we've also stabilised ourselves fairly well in Melbourne. We've also done a lot of work in the country to stabilise, because I think Victoria and Australia, a lot of people are going to move regional out of the big cities. Them days are maybe gone. Main towns that we've concentrated on, Donga, Albury, Shepherd and Bairnsdale, Sale, are areas that we really we think are going to be growth in the future of Victoria.
I think it's exciting times ahead with all the new initiative with the government, zero emission vehicles, new contract, 10-year contract, all the other things. Yeah, it's going to be an exciting new age.
I think the transition to zero emissions buses is inevitable. It's got to happen. It's going to be demanded of our customers from the government, but also the people that catch our buses. So scary in a sense that we need to kind of work out a plan and get that rolling, but it excites me because it's just a better way to do business. And I think that as a big business that we are, we should be doing whatever we can to, you know, protect the environment and do what's right.
What excites me about the next generation stepping up is that we've really got a good example by the CEO. I think he seems to be a good guy. If they can sort of jump on board with him, pick his brain a bit, I think we've got a very good future.
I am really excited for the new CEO to start, and I think that the change of someone external was always going to be something that was going to be prevalent as we moved forward. So I think that it was a really good thing that we added.
It's very exciting to hear about all the acquisitions and the growth, because obviously on a personal level it means I'm going to keep my job, and we all need to keep our jobs. But having been an employee so long, I'm really proud because I'm personally attached to this job and the people that work here, and I'm proud for the family. I think it's a great legacy.
The future for the fourth gen is exciting because once the third generation do step away, they'll probably fly a bit higher, I would say. I have no doubt we restrict them, not purposely, but you know, your time will come, son, so to speak, because that's what our parents told us. So that's just gone through the generations. But yeah, I think they'll certainly take off under the new CEO, and he'll grow them, and they'll stretch their legs a bit further and develop the business further.
The way that the business is set up, the people within the business, and the way that what the future holds for us, I think is exciting. So I wouldn't be anywhere else.
To be cognizant of what's made Dysons so successful to date is what will make it successful in the future. So don't lose those intrinsic values when the pressures might be there from, especially these days with government contracts, to go in a certain direction, because you'll find that those values are values that will stand the test of time.
We'll never know if Pop could have dreamed of what his family business would become. But here we are, 70 years later, at a time when Dysons has earned its position as one of Australia's most significant and highly regarded transport businesses. Dysons, 70 years and counting.
The thing that makes me proudest is the fact that we've made it to 70 years of operation and still basically all talking to each other.